Guys doing? This is your boy Dave Saxologist on Sax of Friends podcast. Today I have another very special guest, as I usually do. Nothing but the best musicians and artists and producers. That's all I look for. And today's my guest is none other than one of the best musical directors, especially when it comes to gospel in the all of the land. And he's been there for quite some time doing his thing. And he's a pianist, he's a singer, songwriter, and like I said, he's musical director of at least five choirs at one of the largest, oldest African American, predominantly African American churches in Orange County, SBC Santa Ana, pastored by Dr. Ivan Pitts. So I'd like to introduce to you all my minister of music, Mr. Dwayne Roberts. Dwayne, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, Brother Dave. Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure.
Well, it is my pleasure to have you on here, man. And you've been so awesome, man. I'm watching you from the pulpits, man. Watching you do your thing. I'm sitting in the pews, and you, Fred, and Aisha. Is it Aisha? I'm sorry. What's her name?
Aisha,
Aisha. Yeah,
Aisha, love.
you guys out there killing it, man. So
Yeah.
let's get some background on you, man. So first of all, where are you from, and when did you start playing any type of music?
Well, my family is originally from Texas. Both of my parents are Texans. And my father was in the Air Force. His sister's husband was in the military and got stationed out here in the 1950s. So they moved out here, and my aunt and her husband and had started having children, my cousins, and they belonged to SBC, and they talked my grandmother, Clyda Young, into coming to out here, and she joined SBC and became a deaconess. This was in the 50s. In the meantime, my father was in the Air Force, and we were all over. My oldest brother was born in Texas. My second had another child that was born in Spokane, Washington, but he passed away as a baby. And then the third son, Donnie Roberts, was born in Okinawa, Japan. And then my parents came back to the States, and then me and my sister were born in Topeka, Kansas. Then we went to Okinawa, again, his second tour in Okinawa for a few years. And then when he retired in 1965, we came to Santa Ana, where my grandmother was already at SBC. Now, my mother was a musician as a child in Texas, so she already played. My older brother, Donnie, was also a musician. So when we came here, I was 5 years old. Donnie was 8. Daryl, my oldest brother, was 11, and my younger sister was 3. My mother started playing the piano for the children's choir and for the choir, and I was in the children's choir. And then my older brother Donnie started really developing in his music playing, and he started playing for the youth and so on. So I didn't know anything about playing. I didn't really even realize that I was going to be singing. I started off singing as a little kid. So it wasn't until I got into my teens, my older brother, who was excelling in his music, became a songwriter and musician. And then he left SBC and became a minister of music at another church in Pasadena. So I took over the youth. And that's how I started really getting into it. I started off as a director, but trying to learn the parts and teach the parts. I was picking out the parts on the piano. I started playing. The Lord gave me that gift. So probably around age 14, 15, 16. I had my first concert with the choir as I was age 16. And I had my first concert with the choir. So that's kind of like in a nutshell what how the background was.
So piano is that your first instrument?
Yeah, well, kind of. I took accordion. I didn't stay at it long, but as a child, when I was in school, I started the child accordion.
Right.
But I forgot one thing. When we moved here, we lived with my grandmother for a while, and one of my cousins was there living with her. His name is Larry Fulcher. He's a little older than us, but he was a musician. My grandmother had a big piano in the den, and Larry plays bass. He still plays. He plays for the Phantom Blues Band, Taj Mahal, and the Phantom Blues Band.
Okay.
Larry Fulcher is his name, and he's been playing for me. So he was kind of like a uh, role model for us because he was already playing and doing music. So we've been around music, pretty much my whole life. So
So when you were in elementary or whatever, did you play anything else, or did you try to play
no,
an instrument? You didn't.
I only just try the accordion. And just as some other people were trying to, I didn't even stay on it long. I eventually started doing the piano, just picking out the parts. I didn't really think I was going to be doing and being a musician. Even singing, I didn't know. They would put me up to sing. I sang in the kids choir. Then I started getting older and started, developing it. And so I sang under my brother. He had a group, sang with him and traveled. And like I said, my mom was a musician and choir directress. And so I had a lot of good role models to follow.
Yeah, that's pretty good, man. So when you did you have any any genres that you were more related to at that time? Was it gospel? Was it R&B, or did you just
Mm,
absorb?
I I guess it was, because I was around gospel, grew up in the church. When we first came here, we didn't have a choice. We didn't have a choice whether we was going to go to church or not. We stayed with my grandmother, and then eventually we moved into our own place. But she was already a deaconess at the church, and we didn't have no choice. You going to church, and you going, and so I'm grateful for that I had that good upbringing. But I love music, and I love all kind of music. Some of my favorite artists, Chaka Khan. I love Chaka Khan, and one of my good friends, one of our Melvin Davis, plays bass for her, and sometimes it's her music director. But Melvin uh, grew up in SBC. We went to high school together, and you've got some other singers like O'Brien Burnett, who was a member of SBC, sang in the choir, and Veronica Hardeman, who used to play drums for Pointed Sisters. So we have all kind of great musicians that came out of that, came out of SBC that are still playing it today. So
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, are you self-taught?
self-taught, and like I said, I had good role models. I found Regina Ford, who grew up in SBC, who was used to watch her play, and then me and her played together for many, many, many years. She played organ and piano. She grew up in SBC. Like I said, my older brother, and so many other good musicians that I saw. And then we began to be very active in our um, district association, Tri-County District Association and Western Baptist State Convention, which was in kind of like an organization that fellowship with churches, and so I started meeting all these awesome singers and musicians from other states, LA, I'm from other cities, LA, Pasadena, you know, um, Riverside, San Bernardino, because we started traveling a lot under our new pastor at the time, Pastor Kazee. When I first came there, Pastor Henderson was the pastor, S.C. Henderson. And then he left, and then we got Pastor Kazee came from Los Angeles, and under him, we became really, really active. Uh, we started a second service there at the church, an 8 o'clock service, and I started playing under his leadership. And so we've traveled a lot with him. It was just very busy, but it was really good because I met all these wonderful people and singers that I'm still close with today. So yeah.
That's amazing. And it's amazing about your family as you speak about. Your nephew was on
Mhm.
American Idol and almost won that sucker, right?
Absolutely. And my older brother Daryl, who's Desmond's father, he plays. He's pretty low key, but he plays. He has uh, children. He has 4 kids, and all of them pretty much play. But Desmond was on American Idol last season, and he placed, I think, in the top 10. Maybe he did
Yes,
really
yeah,
good. He
he
still
did really well.
plays.
Yeah.
But Daryl has a grandson, DiMaggio, who's taking piano. He's musically inclined. His Daryl's daughter, Danielle, and my cousin. and another young lady. They have a group called Melodic. They're doing some stuff with Disney. Damani, the old, the one of the older brothers, his kids, Daryl's kids, the singer musician. They all grew up in the acting and music fields, so they're very, very, very talented. So I come from a music, family, cousins and nieces and nephews, and musically inclined. So I'm grateful.
Do you play any other instruments?
No, I haven't really tried. Now, if I have to, the organ is kind of similar to the piano, but it's got its own little, perks. But if I have to get on the organ, I think I only played the organ once. It was one Easter a couple of years ago. Um, I think the something happened where we didn't have anybody from the media to turn the sound system on. So, and I couldn't get the electric piano on, so I just turned on the organ and sat and played the organ. But piano is about the only thing. I'm still trying to learn how to play the piano good
Oh man, you do
because
that with your eyes closed, man. You know
bef
that board, man. It's not a problem.
well, before COVID, we had this big grand piano that I played on for many, 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 many years. And then after COVID, we went, um, we started live streaming more, and they felt it was best to get a piano that kind of helped go with the system, and kind of help with the live electric piano.
Yeah.
So we bought a Nord 3 keyboard. So, and that thing does everything. So I'm still learning, how to play that. It does everything except make breakfast. It does everything.
You know what's funny about
So,
it's funny about that, Dwayne? I see that everywhere. I go to all these concerts and I see that everywhere. And I think about you. I said, that's the same one that Dwayne plays. It's
hey,
everywhere, man.
well, I got my little settings plugged in, so they know whenever I come in, I just put my little settings in. But it's wonderful, and I'm grateful to have that. I'm still learning, Dave. I'm
Yeah,
still learning, even after
that's
all this
awesome,
time.
man. So let me ask you this, man. What your biggest influence early on, if it's somebody, a keyboardist, somebody that you who was somebody on the keyboard or piano that really, said that's him.
You mean that influenced me?
Yes.
I would say my brother and my mother. My brother, like I said, I sang under him. He had a group, that I sang with, and Donnie was an awesome songwriter and musician himself. He passed away in 2000,
No, I'm sorry to hear that.
but he was awesome musician, songwriter. My mother, and then later on, as I excelled in my own music, and the Lord started giving me not only to play but also as a songwriter. He started giving me songs, and um, later on, when I was probably around, let's see, in 98, probably around 38 years old or whatever, 37, I started singing with a group called the Los Angeles Gospel Messengers. It was a choir that was started by the Reverend James Cleveland
Okay.
and under the direction of Calvin Bernard Rome out of Los Angeles. And I started attending the Gospel Music Workshop of America, which was Reverend Cleveland's workshop for people from all over the world coming once a year to a big music convention, learning new music and gospel. So that influenced me too. And I'm still a member of the Los Angeles chapter. And we have a Orange County component of that meets the first Monday of every month. And we go to the convention. We're getting ready to go in July in Greensboro, North Carolina again. So that helps push me to excel and to develop a new love, and just to go further than just you know staying at Santa Ana, but branching out, meeting other people, and hearing them, and traveling and recording and singing. So that was a blessing.
So did you ever record or do any secular music?
Secular music, no, not that. I mean, other than like maybe special occasions, like for events or whatever, weddings or whatever. I love music. I love all types of music. I love classical music. I would love to be able to sit down and play music. I don't read, music that well. When I started taking piano lessons, I had already been playing for SBC for years, and then I sat down and I tried to take piano lessons, and it was difficult, a little difficult for me because I was already playing by ear,
Right.
sitting down, trying to play, learn, and it was a little difficult. So I didn't stay taking it too long, but I love all kind of music, classical, and like I said, You know, one of my favorite songs today is Flashlight by Parliament Funkadelics.
Ah, that's a good one.
When whenever that introduction come on, I don't care. I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna start dancing. So I love all kind of music. But I never got a chance to record anything. I did some recording with gospel, but not with secular.
Well, which brings me to another question. When you said you wrote the songs, so what is your process of writing songs? How do you get inspired to write, and what is your process of naming the song when you write it?
That's a good question, Dave. I didn't ask for it. I didn't know I was going to be doing it. Same thing with playing and singing. I didn't. It's just something the Lord gave me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm grateful for that. That's why I try to be a good steward of it and try to do my best. Um, like I said, I was after my brother left and I started directing the choir and started playing, and I was excelling in playing. Then after a few years over that, he started giving me music. One of the songs that I started writing um, was called "Rest in Me," and that's the title of our SBC CD that I sent you. I wrote that because I'm saying, hey, we need a song for prayer, and the Lord just, as I was, you know, going and thinking about music, preparing music, the Lord gave me that chorus of the song, Rest in Me. And I taught it to them, and we used it as one of the songs that we played, that we sang during altar prayer in service. And years later, when we decided to record the CD, I had to finish it. I had to write a verse and the rest of it, and we eventually recorded it. And that's the title of our CD that was released in 2006, called Rest in Me. So that's the process. And even now, there's some songs that I've been working on for years. There was another song that I sent you that we recorded with our Orange County component of the Gospel Music Workshop of America called He Reigns Forevermore. One of my friends, Corey Briggs, who used to sing with Reverend Cleveland and Kurt Carr. But Corey said, hey, Dwayne, we got rehearsal tomorrow night for our component of GMWA. I need a song. You got a song? And I said, let me see. And the Lord gave me a song. He gave me that He Reigns Forevermore. I taught it the next night, and we recorded it a few years later. And then a few years after that, Bishop Yvette Flunder, her convention, her choir recorded it. And that's what I sent you. But it was He Reigns Forevermore. So the process, Dave, is whatever the Lord gives me. I've been working on some songs. Like I have a couple of songs where I have just a portion of it.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to finish it. And one of the things I'm hoping to do is do my own solo project soon, with some of my music that I've done. So we'll see.
I'm sure you got something involved. Like you said, there's some songs that just may need a verse or two that's sitting there to be finished, right? You just had to
There's
get
some
through them.
songs I got the chorus, or
Yeah.
I'm just trying to work on it and finish it, and it's gonna happen.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely though, man. You know what? You're a very positive spiritual man, and so am I. And I believe in manifestation.
Yeah.
3 years ago, Kim will attest to this. We did a vision board, and I would play at church. Now, I've never really played. I just play here, and I said on there like 1 year, but it took a couple more years after that. But it came
Hmm.
true, and I want to just thank you for being open. And I came and told you, hey, I'm a novice at this, but you say, hey man, just come on out there and we can use you.
Absolutely.
You know, and
Absolutely.
and I really
And we're
appreciate
glad,
that.
Dave. You've been a blessing. We're glad because, and like I said, I didn't, I'm not the best musician. All the musicians that play for Fred, Aisha, Reverend Kemp, these are professional musicians, and they tour and they play, and this little old me, playing. And so I'm humbled and honored to be able to play with musicians like you guys who are professional and play. But I've learned over the years is that what's important, Dave, you can be the best at playing, but it's what comes out of your heart. That's what is important. I have singers in the choir. People tell me all the time, oh, what does it take to be in your choir? You want to come and sing? Some churches and some places they have to they audition their choirs, and
Yeah.
that's quite all right if that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
I just want people who love the Lord and who have the heart for it. I got people in the some of the choirs that are tone deaf, that don't really sing that well, but they have a heart for God, and I'll rather sing with those people any day than with somebody who has a great voice but has a crappy attitude and spirit. I want to sing with people who love the Lord, and and then His anointing is what does what it's going to do and blesses people through our music. So.
That's beautiful, but you know what, Dwayne? I'm not gonna let you get away with that. Talking about you're just no, you're a great musician, bro. Don't sell yourself short, man. You are one of them, okay?
Well, I know one thing I got a saying is what I say, you know what? Yeah, you can't, I'm going to give my best, and you can't, nobody can beat me giving my best. I'm going to give my best to the Lord. That's the thing. So that's for sure. But I realize that it's because of Him that I can do what I do, whether it's singing or playing or whatever, because He could have gave it to somebody else, but He gave me my little bit, what He wanted me to do, and I'm going to give it back to Him to use for Him. So.
Do you have perfect pitch or relative pitch?
I don't know. I wouldn't say I have perfect pitch. I have pretty good pitch, but I don't know if it's perfect. If I'm, because I think a perfect pitch, if you say, "Hey, Dwayne, give me a C," and I could just hum a C, I'm not like that. But if I need to say, "Okay, what did we sing that song in?" and I'm trying to think of a song I can kind of get close to where what key in my mind and go to the piano and play it, whatever. But I don't know if it's perfect pitch or not.
Okay, so if somebody plays something, but if somebody played, you say, play this right back to me. He plays da 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 da, plays a couple chords, and you can play it right back.
It depends on what it is. Yeah, if it's basic stuff, no, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not real fancy. I'm like basic. Yeah. But people, like Aisha is an awesome musician. She's a, jazz
Yeah.
musician, God, she's pretty much and she's awesome. And so Reverend Kemp and Aaron Carter are other musicians.
Yeah.
They're really, really good. They can do all that fancy stuff. That's above me. So no, I can't do all that.
What brings me to another question. All of you guys are such great musicians. You guys don't use sheet music for anything, pretty much. Is everything by ear?
Everything pretty much now. I should will use some sheet music, and sometimes when we have special occasions, they'll make charts, what they call charts,
Right.
you know. And I don't use it, no, because I don't read music that well like that to play by it. I can read it and say, okay, that's a A, that's C, D, I can do
Right.
that. But as far as playing, they'll make chart. But the rest of the musicians, they'll make their charts and stuff and do it. But and Aisha can read music and play by the music, but as far as for the most part, we all pretty much play by ear. Do you play by music? Do you do charts and stuff
Well,
like that?
that's the only way. That's the only way I knew. That's why I'm having a hard time. I'm learning. I'm trying to get the ear now.
Uh,
I'm taking lessons, by the way. My teacher, he's working with me. He's on me, man. He gonna get me right. You know.
but that's good practice to be able to do both. I would love to be able to sit down and play music. I love, all kind of music. I want to be able to put a piece of music in front of me and play that,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
can do that all
And
day,
I,
but now just
yeah,
trying to pick out the chords and all that. And I appreciate you guys, having patience with me because I'm gonna get it, man. I put in work.
yeah. Well, Dave, you've been a blessing. You bring another special uniqueness to us. That's a blessing, and we're so glad that that you're with us. It's a blessing. So
And I
thank you.
appreciate being there, man. And
Yeah.
so I need to ask you, man, how did that make you feel, that beautiful 50th anniversary of your being at SBC, man? How did that make you feel, that concert, man?
It was awesome. And what the 50 was, Dave, it was celebrating 50 years of music leadership at SBC. I've actually been at SBC. And now it's been 61 years since I was 5. I just turned
Oh,
66 in February. So that 50 was mean I took over as a leader of the youth choir when I was 15.
mm, wow.
So when I turned 65 last year, that was the 50. It was been in music leadership. I had already been at SBC for, you know, for years.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was awesome. It was an awesome celebration. My family was there, and like I said, my cousins who were already here at SBC when we came, They have been still members, of the church today. And it was just an awesome time to celebrate what the Lord has done. And I give him all the credit and all the glory because I'm just me. I'm just
Right.
just Dwayne. And he said, let me give this little knucklehead something, some little music. And but he blessed me to be a part of, like I said, an awesome family, a musical family, and surrounded by some wonderful friends who are musicians and stuff. So it was awesome. It was an awesome time for me. So,
And you deserve it, man. So let me ask you this: how long have you been the minister of music there at SBC?
well, like I said, when my brother left, because he was kind of over the choir, kind of over the youth choir. My mom was directing the senior choir, and my brother left probably around 1974, 75. I was 15. I took over the youth choir. That's where the 50 years comes in as leader. And Regina Ford, who was still here, was playing organ. And then as I was started developing and growing, then I started playing. Then me and her were the piano. I was the pianist. She was the organist for many, many, many years. And I started growing. So I was kind of acting as minister of music before I had the official title. But under Pastor McReynolds in I think 1999, he officially ordained me as the minister of music. I had official ordination service and everything. So that was 1999. So
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah.
27 years, but I was officially
Right.
ordained as minister of music. But I was kind of doing it, a number of years before I had the official title.
Now,
Yeah.
now I have a question about the director of music and the pastor. So these two have to marry when it comes to the message and everything. So how do you and Pastor Pitts go? Do you tell him every, like, this is what we're playing this week and all that, and or how does that work?
Well, it's something. Well, that's a very good question, Dave. As the minister of music, you have to be really close with you have to have a good relationship with the pastor. And Pastor Pitts is the maybe seventh pastor I've served under,
Wow.
and they all were different. So I had to learn how to, because Pastor Kazee was the first one because I started playing under him. And so I had to learn, he was a hooper. He'd preach and he'd hoop because he could sing,
Okay.
and he was a hooper, and
Yeah.
so I had to learn him. And then after he left, we had a pastor for a short time, Pastor Carroll. He didn't do that, so we had to stop and then he was more of a teacher.
Right.
Then Reverend Kirkland came for a short time, and he was a little hooper too. And then we had gotten used to not doing that. And he said, "Well, how come y'all don't follow me?" Yeah. And then we had to get used to him. And then after him was Pastor McReynolds, who was a singer. So I had to learn how to adjust, but also develop a good working relationship with them because you're an extension of the pastor. I
Yes.
had to get to know them and learn their heart. What is God, saying to them, and how do I fit into that vision of his? So I've had a close relationship with all the pastors. And so to answer your question, there are times when Pastor Pitts will say, "Oh, I'm preaching on so and so," or I'll ask him, "What you preaching on?" He just started a new series called SBC, Sharing Christ, Building Believers, Caring for All. Last Sunday he did Sharing Christ. This coming Sunday is Building Believers. So if I have a song that I think would go well, for the most part, I just ask God, see how things are going, who's available, we're going to do the sing. And it usually works out pretty good. But if he's got something special that he'd like for us to do, sometimes he just say, "Oh, you know what? I ain't heard y'all sing this in a while. Can you sing my song?" And then we'll do it. It just depends on, you know, what he wants or what he needs. This coming first Sunday of May is Mental Health Sunday, and we have a special guest pastor who's going to be coming to preach, and he's a singer, and he asked for us to do a song with him.
Okay.
So it works like that. You know what I'm saying? If
Yeah.
there's a song that we're open, we're there to assist with whatever needs to be done. So
That's a good answer. I like that. Pastor Pitts is a great guy, man. Pastor Pitts, we love
he's an
you, brother.
awesome guy.
you know.
He's an awesome guy, and he's very supportive, and I'm grateful. And but tell you, we've had some great pastors. Like I said, I started under Pastor Kazee. I'm still close with him. He's still doing well. And then, of course, Pastor McReynolds and I were very close, but we met as in the youth department. He was in college when he first came to SBC, and his later on wife Evangeline, we were in the youth department together, and he used to come to the youth Bible study, and I would tease her and say, "Girl, that man, that boy like you. He like, we tease each, I tease her, and eventually they started dating and got married, and then eventually he became one of the ministers on staff. And then he became pastor. So I had already had a relationship with him for many, many years. And then after him, Pastor Fogelman, who was there under Pastor McReynolds, and then when Pastor McReynolds passed away, he became our interim pastor for you. Was close with them. I knew his heart. He was an awesome. Still, keep in touch with him. And then when Pastor Pitts, I was on the actual pulpit committee that selected him. I didn't know him before that, but I was on the pulpit committee when he was selected as pastor.
That's amazing, man. So let me ask you this, Dwayne. After 60 years or so, being at SBC and still doing this, what is your why to still be doing this right now? After all these years, what is your why?
Well, you know what? That's a good question, Dave. I just say God knows what he's doing. I can't take the credit for it. This is what he wanted me to do, what he called me to do. Now, what I am doing these days, like you mentioned my nephews and other people. We got some awesome people in our musicians and singers in our choir in our church. And I'm kind of, moving over and letting more people do more, and you'll see more people playing. You and Aaron Carter and Aisha and Patrick Kemp and um, so many other musicians that are coming. I want to make the room for them to be able to do what I did. My nephews, and like I said, my little nephew's taking piano. I'm encouraging him. You keep playing that piano, and you're gonna be playing, for me one day. So just like somebody had to move over and make room for me, I'm trying to make, not like I'm going anywhere. I'm still gonna be doing, but there's room enough to bring in the next generation and to encourage them to utilize their gifts for the Lord too. That's
And
what
I've
I'm
I've
doing.
noticed that about you too, though. Because I'm observant, and so I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, Dwayne he's delegating a little bit, trying to,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
paying it forward. I see it, man. I know what you're
Abs-
doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, like I said, somebody who had to move out of the way, give me a chance. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, man. That's
So
it, man. And
yeah.
I tell you what. So uh, first of all, how many choirs do we have at church there?
Well, let me answer it like this. Before COVID, Dave, we had 4 choirs and 2 praise teams. We had the men, we had what was called the Voices of SBC, which was like the adult choir. Then we had NGC, New Generation Choir, which was the young adults and
Hmm.
youth and young adults. And then we had the children's choir. So that was the 4 choirs, the men, the adults, the youth, young adults, and the children. And then we had an adult praise team and a young adult praise team. So we had 4 choirs and 2 praise teams, and they all had their own separate rehearsals.
Right.
After COVID, and we had to go virtual for a while. Then we started doing live streaming, and we went to one service because we used to have 2 services up
Right.
every Sunday in Santa Ana. We went to one service, and then we had to start um, doing the services, virtual. And so I had to kind of pull my better singers to be on those microphones
Yeah.
because they were, because you can't just put in everybody on a mic.
Right.
It's different when you're all in the choir and everybody's voice is just playing. But when you're on the mic trying to get it virtual, you want to put your better singers up there. So that kind of changed things because I had to start mixing and matching.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So to answer your question now, we still have our men's choir. And now our children, they have their own service, and Karen Allen Reed is kind of a new uh, lady who's been working with them. But they meet it, in their own church service on Sundays. So she's over them. So she works with them. So we have our men, we still have our children, and then I don't. I call the adult choir, it used to be the Voices of SBC. I just call it SBC Mass because whoever wants to come and sing from any of the other groups, come on and sing.
Okay.
And then as far as the praise teams, I pick and choose what's needed because it depends on who's singing and what's going on. So we still kind of have the youth slash young adult. They're not young adult youth. They're not even young adults anymore.
Right.
They're older.
Right.
Uh, but they were so close. They still have a close knit, and they still sing together. Like they'll be singing Sunday. We call them NGC, New Generation Choir, whatever. So they're still there. So it just depends, Dave. It's kind of like three,
Okay.
how many choirs?
Yeah.
It's whoever is available and what we need because we got to pull from whatever because now we're doing live stream and we got to kind of make sure we have our better singers on the mics when possible.
Well, let me ask you about the evolution of the church. When you started, 50 years ago or so, compared to now, was praise and worship only a couple songs, or was it a half hour, or was it? Because I used to go to a church that we be up there for a half hour before he even stepped on
Yeah,
the stage, though. So
yeah,
how was it
that's a
coming up
good
that
question.
way?
It was like that, and every church was different, but SBC was, deacons would do devotion for 10, 15 minutes, and then the choir would sing, and the choir was in the choir stand the whole service.
Yeah.
We had the chairs up here in the choir, so the choir was up there, so we sang. First of all, we processed in. We sang as a procession. We marched in, and the
Yeah.
choir stand,
Yeah.
and you sang a selection. Then during the altar prayer, you sang. Then during offering, you sang. Then they had another selection before the sermon. Then you sang for invitation. It was a lot going on then. Um, and so the choirs were, I came up under the choir days, where you had
Yeah.
choirs, mass choirs,
Right.
whatever. And later on, as the praise and worship started coming in, things changed. And there's some churches now that don't have choirs. They just have the worship teams, which is fine.
Yeah.
They just have the worship team. They don't have the choir. So there's some churches that do praise and worship for an hour before the
Yeah.
pastor even comes to start, whatever.
Right.
But the reason why we have ours situated how it is, um, we try to keep the service to an hour and 15 minutes at the most, because normally pastor has to leave Santa Ana and go down to Irvine and preach.
Right.
And the Irvine service is at 11:30. This was now. Remember, we used to have two services at Santa Ana before COVID.
Right.
We had 9 o'clock, and we had I think 11:15.
11:15. 11:15, I
Yeah.
believe it was. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so for him to have to rush down there and then, just like I said, try to keep it down to, a certain amount. So we don't have a lot of time to drag a lot of stuff out. And I'm not saying that we're not listening to the Holy Spirit, but the Holy Spirit can do what he gonna do in 2 seconds, in 5 minutes, or whatever you're gonna do if your heart is right. And so every church is different. It doesn't mean it's better because you do it for an hour or you do it for 10 minutes. It just means that you've set that time, and whatever time you're doing, you lift him up, and he gonna do what he gonna do. So
Yeah, I like that, man. Yeah, that's a good answer.
yeah,
So
yeah.
let me ask you this.
You saw on Sunday and Easter, the choir had to leave because we had to rush and get down to Irvine.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And you saw the choir left out of the choir center because the service went a little longer, so we had to get out of it. But then we got out and we were blocked in,
Blocked in.
because so many people were there, and we had to, some of the choir members had to park down at the shuttle and be shuttled in because we tried to make more room for the visitors. But so that was a good example of why we had to try to keep the service, to an hour and a half at the most,
Yeah.
because we got to have time to get down to, some of them had to get down to Irvine to sing for 11:30.
And honestly, you can do what you need to do an hour and a half anyway. Let's just keep it real. You don't have to be there
Absolutely.
3 hours. You can if you want to, but you don't have
If you
to.
want to,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like I said, some churches, their praise and worship is an hour. I know my friend's church in LA, they'll do praise and worship for an hour and a half before the pastor even comes out.
Yeah, exactly. I used to go to Noel
Yeah.
Jones Church down in
Yeah.
and man, yeah,
Yes.
that band would be up. They put on a concert. It'd be 40 minutes. I mean, it's like, wow. Okay, and he ain't even got him on stage yet, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know how it
Yeah.
is, man.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
hey, so let me ask you, Dwayne, how how do you deal with, all the choirs and, everybody's a trip, how people are. How do you deal with all the personalities that you have to deal, like Sister Sarah, she sang, how come she get all the songs and solos, I don't get none? How do you deal with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question, Dave. I try to um, I try to you know be fair, and I try to listen, and I'm well aware that our the fight is not against flesh and blood; it's a spiritual fight. And you and other people, we're not enemies. We're not the enemy. There is an enemy, but we're not each other's enemy. But he'll try to use other people to fight. And I say all that to say, I've had to be sensitive to what's going on. Like I said, I've had people in the choir who were awesome singers but were messy or did try to just. And I had to deal with that and set that straight and even sit some people down or even have people not be a part of us anymore. If you're not gonna be a part of the unity, we can't have that. And I don't want to do that. I didn't have to, didn't ask for that, but I did it because I think that's best. But everybody's welcome, but you're not welcome to start mess and come and bring that mess. Now, I'm the kind of person, I'm low key. I don't wear that on my, oh, I'm the leader. You got to do what I don't do that. Now, if I'm pushed to it, I will remind you that I'm the one that's in charge. I don't want to have to do that,
Right.
but I will remind you, and I've had to do that on some occasions. So I hope that I lead by example, and I hope that people know that I want everybody to come and be a part. Everybody has something to offer. Everybody's welcome. But what you will not do, you're not going to come in here and start mess, and you're not going to be divisive, and you're not going to be a troublemaker. We're going to give you a chance, but if you do that, I'm going to have to just no. You need to find something else to do. You're not going to do that. So I hope that answers your question.
That's good stuff. Yeah, very good, man. I like that,
Yeah,
man. And I tell you,
yeah.
Dwayne, I know you got somewhere to be. So I just want to thank you, man, once again for your time. This was very interesting, man. And you're a great musical director, brother, and keep doing what you're
Well,
doing, man. You know?
Brother David, thank you so much. And listen, we're getting ready for our men's choir is going to do a big concert in August, the last Sunday of August, and of course, you're going to be a part of that. And then we're going to talk about too, maybe one Sunday you can play a solo or something. You know what I'm saying? We can
Okay.
work on that and schedule to do something because you're an awesome brother, and we appreciate you and your gift, and we're grateful that you're a part of us, and we're bitter because of you. So,
Dwayne, I really appreciate you, brother. On that
all right,
note,
Dave.
so Dwayne, if anybody needs to, you have any social media that
I
people can
do.
contact you, give up
I
what.
have Facebook and Instagram under my name, Dwayne Roberts. I guess that's how yeah, you'll see my big head on there, my picture on there, Facebook, Instagram.
And if you're in
Yeah.
Orange County, you're looking for a nice church, you need to join the choir, where can they go?
They can come to Second Baptist Church, Santa Ana. We're at 4300 Westminster Avenue in Santa Ana, and we also have a church in Irvine that meets at a school. But you can contact me. I don't mind giving my contact information. My phone number is area code 714-742-9258. You can contact me, or my church email is d.roberts, Roberts, at sbc.family, d.roberts@sbc.family. Contact me, and we'll put you to work. We're looking for new singers, and if you play anything, hey, there's room for everybody. You're all welcome.
Thanks a lot, Dwayne. I appreciate you, brother.
All right, thank you, Brother Dave, and we'll see you soon. All right.
Most definitely, man. You take care, man. Ladies
All
and
right.
gentlemen, that
Thanks
was
a
the
lot.
great Dwayne Roberts, musical director at SBC Santa Ana, California, one of the best choirs and bands in the whole Southland. So come and check us out. All right, this is when your boy Dave,
Thank you, Brother Dave.
saxologist. Take care.